Greenland, 11:47 a.m.
High-latitude sun, hard white glare, thin clouds like gauze, a pale sky stretched over steel water and ice. Greenland below looks calm. It isn't. Not today, not at 11:47, because the first warning doesn't come from a window. It comes from a tone, a clean, cold chirp in a console room thousands of miles away. Then a second tone, then the same word, spoken twice by two different operators in two different countries. Launch! Launch! 6 missiles rise from the north. Not fireworks, not tests on a brochure. 6 long-range shapes that climb into the thin air and start bending toward the polar corridor. Over Greenland, over the hinge of the Atlantic, over the place where radar fences and satellite eyes overlap like a net. In Moscow, the plan is simple. A demonstration, a filmed moment, a pressure move, a message to be played back on evening news with heroic music. A claim of reach, a claim of control, a claim that the Arctic is theirs to write on. And in this dramatization, the order is timed to the minute because timing is the weapon. 11:47 a.m., 6 missiles, a countdown that Russia believes it controls. They imagine panic, they imagine confusion, they imagine Washington calling emergency meetings while the world watches the sky. They imagine Greenland becoming a headline that says NATO is vulnerable. They imagine a propaganda victory built from a curved white line on a map. And 38 minutes later, Putin is shocked because Russia makes 4 miscalculations. First, they think the corridor is thin. It isn't. It's layered. It's radar on radar, satellite on satellite, aircraft on standby, crews already awake. Second, they think they can hide the launch behind distance and weather. They can't. Heat rises. Trails exist. Sensors don't blink. Third, they think 6 missiles create fear. Up here, 6 missiles create clarity, a clean threshold, a clean legal line. Fourth, they think response time is political. It isn't. In the Arctic, it's procedural, pre-approved, practiced, a muscle memory that turns minutes into action. This water is not empty. This sky is not empty. This island is not just ice and rock. Greenland is a hinge, a giant keyhole between oceans, a corridor where submarines pass quietly and aircraft patrol continuously, a corridor where one statistic matters more than speeches, less than 1,000 miles from Greenland's far north to the nearest nodes that watch everything, a distance that shrinks to nothing when a missile is already in the air. That's why Russia chooses this angle. Not because they want land, because they want footage. Because they want a clip that says the West can't protect its own seam, because they want to force a reaction that can be edited into weakness. And at 11:47 a.m., the red line is crossed in a way that can't be uncrossed. 11:47 a.m. In a dim operations bay, screens glow pale blue. A radar warning tone repeats, steady now like a metronome. Another sound joins it, a printer spitting out a strip, a keyboard tapping fast. Multiple tracks. 6, northbound, high speed. Confirm. The confirmation comes from a second sensor, then a third, then a satellite downlink. No debate, no hope that it's a false alarm. The tracks are too clean, the signatures too consistent, the corridor prediction too obvious. The controller's voice is flat, not excited, not scared, just controlled. This is real. In Greenland itself, the day looks normal for a few more seconds. Wind moving snow across a ridge, a transport truck crawling along a cleared road, a small settlement tucked into gray. Then a faint sound arrives. Not thunder, not a boom. A distant, low pressure like the sky is holding breath. The first missile breaks into the watch picture as a bright dot. Then another, then 6. They are not above the island yet. But the corridor math is already written. In a US and Allied command loop, radios light up. Headsets click, a short klaxon chirps once, sharp, mechanical, a tone meant to wake procedures, not people. Missile warning, Arctic corridor, Greenland track, 6 inbound. In a cockpit on alert status, a pilot's hand tightens on a strap. In a hangar, boots hit concrete. In a communications shack, a technician switches from routine chatter to coded bursts. The air changes. 11:48 a.m. The first decision is not cinematic, it's clinical. Establish track quality. Assign intercept geometry. Confirm no civil air lanes affected. Notify Allied air defense. Push to the net. The net answers back in seconds. In a Danish operations channel, we have picture. In a Canadian channel, we have picture. In a US channel, we have picture. The net becomes one map, 6 missiles, 1 corridor, Greenland underneath, 11:49 a.m. Russia expects confusion. Instead, the corridor becomes a funnel. Early warning systems sharpen. The tracks get names, not poetic names, labels, numbers. Track 1, Track 2, Track 3, Track 4, Track 5, Track 6. A voice reads them like inventory. The air defense coordinator speaks in short fragments. Assign, commit, hold, confirm. It's fast, but it's not frantic, because this exact situation has been rehearsed, not with Russia, not with headlines, but with the idea that the Arctic is a short corridor where the clock is always the enemy. 11:50 a.m., a micro sound in a distant hangar, hydraulic whine, a canopy lowering, a latch clicking, then a deeper sound, farther away, like someone tearing the sky open. Jet engines spool. 2 fighters launch first, then another pair, climbing hard into thin air, turning north. Their call signs in this dramatization are simple. North Shield 1, North Shield 2, North Shield 3, North Shield 4. Their job is not to look brave, their job is to catch geometry. 11:51 a.m. A patrol aircraft checks in above cloud layer, calm voice, no emotion. Picture confirmed, 6 inbound, corridor unchanged. Below, Greenland's sky remains clean to the naked eye. That's the cruelty of modern threat. It's invisible until it isn't. Inside command loops, the missiles are already close enough to matter. 11:52 a.m. Russia's second move arrives. Not another launch. A broadcast. A public-facing signal. A message meant to frame this as exercise, routine, defensive demonstration. The words are prepared. The tone is confident. The clip is supposed to show strength. But the net doesn't care about words. The net cares about trajectories, and the trajectories say one thing. These are not harmless arcs. These are deliberate lines over a volatile hinge, a line that forces response. 11:53 a.m. The first intercept window opens. The fighters are still closing, but they are not alone. Somewhere farther out, unseen, other layers wake up. Radar beams swing. Tracking algorithms tighten. Ground crews pass short commands down a line. Weapons ready. Systems green. Stand by. The voice that matters most is quiet. Rules of engagement authorized. Not because someone wants escalation, because 6 missiles over Greenland is not theater. It is an act that threatens safe navigation, safe airspace, and the spine of the corridor. The line is crossed the moment the missiles are committed. 11:54 a.m. A radar warning tone changes pitch. One operator points at a screen. They're adjusting. A tiny bend in the tracks. A correction, like a hand changing pressure on a pen. It's small, but it's aggressive, because it suggests targeting logic, not simple overflight. A short pause, then the call goes out. Declare hostile. The word is heavy. It doesn't mean war, it means permission to stop the threat. 11:55 a.m. The first physical response is not a headline. It's a clean launch far away. A streak, then another, then another. Interceptors rising to meet the corridor. Not described as magic, not described as invincible, just described as fast. Very fast. The fighters keep closing, ready to confirm kills, ready to record, ready to handle anything that slips through. On a radio, North Shield, commit. You are weapons free on declared tracks. The pilot answers with a single syllable. Copy. 11:56 a.m. The first intercept happens out of sight, high above cloud and glare, but the sensors see it like a heartbeat spike. A sudden flare on a screen, a track blink, then fragment tracks. Track 1 splintered. Confirm. Confirm. A quick series of tones, then a calmer voice. Track 1 neutralized. There is no cheering, only more work, because 5 remain. 11:57 a.m. Russia expects the corridor to freeze in fear. Instead, the net speeds up. Another interceptor launch. Another flare on a screen. Track 2 neutralized. A small hiss of relief that nobody allows to become a celebration, because the system is built to keep moving. 11:58 a.m. Track 3 does something different. It drops altitude. It tries to slide under a coverage seam. It's a classic move in a modern corridor. Not a secret, just a gamble that the net has a blind spot. Miscalculation number 2, made visible. The Arctic is not blind. It's a glass ceiling. The moment Track 3 drops, other sensors pick it up. A new radar paints it from a different angle. A patrol aircraft marks it. Fighters adjust. On radio, Track 3 low, reassign intercept, cut it off. A pilot breathes once, then speaks. Turning. 11:59 a.m. Track 4 and 5 stay high. They hold speed. They try to overwhelm by simultaneity. 6 missiles are supposed to be 6 problems, but the net turns them into 6 simple labels. 6 separate decisions. 6 separate solutions. 12:00 p.m. Greenland's sky is still calm for anyone standing outside, but the battle is happening in electronics, in radio, in math. A short klaxon chirps again, somewhere in a command center marking a new threshold. Potential leaker. Track 6 uncertain. That's the one nobody likes. The one with degraded track quality. The one that might be a decoy or might be the real threat hidden inside clutter. The coordinator's voice goes colder. Do not assume. Kill what you can confirm. Find the 6th. 12:01 p.m., another intercept, a flare on a screen. Track 4 neutralized. A second later, track 5 neutralized. 2 in quick succession. A synchronized moment, a clean double. It's the kind of thing Russia wanted for propaganda, but it belongs to the defense now. 12:02 p.m. Track 3 is still running low. Fighters are now close enough to see something in the distance as a faint moving dot against bright haze. The pilot's voice tightens, not with fear, with focus. Visual. Confirm hostile. The answer is immediate. Confirm. Engage. A short tone. A trigger press. A distant flash that looks like a star popping. Track 3 breaks apart. Track 3 neutralized. 5 down, 1 still uncertain. The 6th, the one that might be meant to slip through. 12:03 p.m. The net shifts attention to track 6. Multiple sensors search. A radar beam sweeps. A patrol aircraft narrows. A fighter angles, scanning. Then the truth arrives in a tiny detail, a faint reflection on a screen, a weak return that shouldn't exist. Track 6 reacquired. The coordinator speaks one line that changes the shape of the next minutes. That's not a decoy, that's the last. 12:04 p.m. Interceptor assignment. A new launch, fast, a micro sound somewhere on a ship far away, a hatch opening, a whoosh. Then the weapon is gone, invisible to anyone without screens. On radio, final intercept. Commit, the pilot answers. Copy. 12:05 p.m. The last intercept is messy, not because the defense fails, because the missile fights. It tries to dive, it tries to turn, it tries to make the corridor chaotic. A desperate move for a clean headline, but the net is tighter now. The intercept closes, the flare spikes, the track blinks, then disappears. Silence, then the calm confirmation. Track 6 neutralized. 6 missiles, 0 impact on Greenland, 0 impact on shipping, 0 impact on Allied infrastructure, Phase 1 complete. Russia's objective denied, the corridor held, and now the second phase begins, because this wasn't a test anymore. It wasn't an exercise, it wasn't a harmless demonstration. It was a deliberate launch of 6 missiles over a volatile hinge, designed to intimidate and to film reaction, designed to create fear and doubt. The line cross condition is simple: declared hostile missile tracks over Greenland Corridor. That triggers something Russia did not price in. 12:06 p.m. In a distant command center, a wall of screens replays everything. Launch signature, track arcs, the moment the missiles adjusted, the moment they dropped low, the moment they tried to slide under coverage. Telemetry is a lie detector, it shows intent. A nameplate sits above the room, clean and official. Not poetry, just authority. In this dramatization, it reads like a stamp: NORAD, NATO Air Command. Officers watch in silence. One speaks a sentence that lands like a hammer. This wasn't signaling, this was attempted coercion by missile. Another voice, lower: 6 missiles over Greenland is not a drill, it's an attack posture. A pause, then the required line: cold, final. This wasn't harassment, this was an attempted strategic seizure of the corridor. Authorization follows, not emotional, procedural. Follow-on strikes approved, not to punish civilians, not to chase headlines, to remove capability, to make sure the next 6 missiles never leave their rails. 12:07 p.m. Phase 2 begins with distance, with standoff, with platforms that don't need to cross borders to deliver consequence. A synchronized salvo doesn't start with noise, it starts with confirmation. Target package ready, time on target set, deconflict complete. The strike targets are not named like cities, they are named like functions, because functions are what matter in war. Target 1, a coastal radar node feeding the northern picture. Type, radar. Result desired, blind the corridor feed that helped coordinate launch. Target 2, a command communication center linking launch authorization to operators. Type, comm center. Result desired, silence. Target 3, an ammo storage facility for long-range munitions. Type, ammo depot. Result desired, chain reaction, catastrophic loss. Target 4, a fuel farm supporting northern air and missile operations. Type, fuel. Result desired, fire and denial. Target 5, a runway at a remote Arctic airfield used for quick dispersal. Type, runway. Result desired, cratered, unusable. Target 6, a maintenance yard where transporter vehicles and support gear are staged. Type, patrol station, logistics node. Result desired, immobilization. Target 7, a hardened tunnel entrance used to store critical gear. Type, tunnel. Result desired, seal it. Target 8, a secondary radar array used as backup. Type, radar. Result desired, remove redundancy. Target 9, a headquarters building used for coordination. Type, HQ. Result desired, decapitate command flow. Target 10, an uplink tower used to feed propaganda and messaging. Type, Comm center. Result desired. Cut the storyline. 12:09 p.m. The first weapons arrive as faint, distant changes, cruise profiles, low, fast, quiet. They do not roar like movies. They arrive like consequences. A synchronized salvo moment hits 2 targets at once. A radar node flashes bright, then goes dark. A comm dome collapses into smoke. On a satellite feed, it looks like 2 small suns opening at the same time. In a Russian command room, screens freeze, then reboot, then show nothing. 12:10 p.m., second layer, seed and jamming. The air becomes hostile to radar, not through heroics, through spectrum control. A clean blanket of noise that makes defensive systems hesitate, then fail to lock. Radar beams sweep and find nothing reliable. The corridor that Russia tried to manipulate now belongs to someone else's control. 12:11 p.m., precision bombs fall on the runway. Not a city, not homes, concrete, asphalt, a crater line like a zipper opening across the strip. The runway becomes unusable. Aircraft cannot launch, cannot land, cannot disperse. The base becomes a cage. 12:12 p.m. A fuel farm ignites, 1 tank goes, then another, then a third. A chain reaction, fire rolling sideways in wind. Smoke thick and black, visible from far out over water. The kind of smoke that can't be denied on television later. 12:13 p.m. The ammo depot cooks, not a single blast. A series. Secondary explosions popping like drum beats under a larger roar. A shockwave that ripples dust and snow. The facility becomes a cratered field. The air above it flickers with heat. The open source satellites will love this later. 12:14 p.m. A tunnel entrance collapses inward. Not a dramatic cave-in you can cheer, a simple structural denial. The doorway becomes rubble. The stored capability behind it becomes trapped. 12:15 p.m. A logistics yard is hit. Vehicles that move missiles and support gear are shredded and burned. Not cinematic hero shots, just the removal of wheels, cranes, loaders, the boring things that make missile launches possible. 12:16 p.m. A headquarters building loses power. Antennas bend, windows blow out, smoke rises, the command spine breaks. 12:17 p.m. A comm tower falls, not in slow motion, in a sudden tilt, then collapse. The connection that carries messaging, orders, and propaganda feed drops. The line goes dead. 12:18 p.m. The final mop-up layer is not a massacre. It's control, it's overwatch, it's making sure secondary launch rails cannot fire again. It's small precision strikes on remaining radar emitters and backup nodes that try to wake up. Every time a system turns on, it gets seen. Every time it gets seen, it gets removed. 12:20 p.m. The net slows down because the threat has been reduced to ash and silence. A voice, calm as ice, reads assessment. Targets destroyed. Radar blind. Ammo lost. Fuel denied. Runway cratered. Command degraded. No further launches detected. The corridor is quiet again. Not because the world is peaceful, because capability has been subtracted. And 38 minutes after 11:47 a.m., the shock lands in Moscow. Not as emotion. As mathematics, as loss, as the realization that the demonstration produced the opposite of fear, it produced a permanent reduction of options. 12:25 p.m. The recap reads like a ledger. Start time, 11:47 a.m. End time, 12:25 p.m. Total time, 38 minutes. Missiles launched by Russia, 6. Missiles that reach Greenland, 0. Intercepts confirmed, 6. Follow-on strikes executed. A synchronized salvo plus layered precision. Total targets neutralized, 10 critical facilities and nodes. Estimated casualties unknown. Capability loss, devastating. US and Allied losses minimal, none confirmed in this dramatization. Scoreboard, lesson. Then the truth war begins. Within hours, Russian state media speaks first. They call it a planned exercise. They call the intercepts provocations. They claim debris fell harmlessly into the sea by design. They talk about sovereignty and intimidation and heroic posture. They show old footage. They show careful angles. They avoid fresh smoke. They avoid crater lines. They avoid the moments when their own screens went black. But the Arctic has a problem for propaganda. Satellite imagery. Commercial, clear, unemotional. A photo appears showing a black smear near a remote fuel site. Another image shows a runway cut with fresh craters. Another shows a radar field with a bright burn scar and twisted metal shadows. Open source analysts draw circles, not opinions, evidence. And then a short official statement arrives from the Allied side, dry, brief. We intercepted the threat. We eliminated the capability that endangered safe navigation and regional stability. No poetry, no boasting, just a line that ends the argument. Strategic implication is simple. The balance shifts in the corridor, not through speeches, through timestamps. Russia learns that missile demonstrations over the hinge do not create fear, they create permission. They create a fast, legal threshold for collective defense. They create an automatic response that removes the very tools used to posture. Third-party observers watch carefully. Neighbors in the north, shipping firms, commanders in other capitals. Everyone who lives near this seam sees the message. The Arctic is not empty. The Arctic is not slow. The Arctic is not a place where you can test without consequence. Deterrence becomes sharper. The cost of provocation becomes catastrophic, and the closing cadence returns to the clock. Greenland Air Corridor, 11:47 a.m. 6 missiles rise. 38 minutes later, Putin is shocked. Never confuse a demonstration with control. Never mistake distance for invisibility. Never assume the Arctic is blind. 38 minutes, total destruction.